Hey everybody, what's up? How is it going today? I hope you guys are all doing well. Mukundi, that's my name. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about the real African issues and Africa's phenomenal history. For our new subscribers, welcome guys. Welcome to the family. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for joining our big and sweet family and sharing the love of Africa and its brooding majesty, So for those who haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for, guys? Hit that subscribe button, like, share, and click the notification bell so that you'll not miss any of our interesting talks and thought-provoking episodes. So here we educate ourselves, we learn, we unlearn, we relearn. So you're at the right place, actually. So what we do is own our narrative, tell our own stories about our beloved continent through poetry, through storytelling, and even podcasts, So what we are going to do today, hear an interesting story about Africa. So I know many of you can't wait to hear what we are going to exactly talk about. African history, the history of Africa. Yes. So many of us know the history of Africa starting from colonization, going forward to, our independence and all those things, but that is not what really defines Africa, guys. On top of that, what we were mostly taught in our schools was that Africa was nothing and knew nothing before the white people came to Africa. I'm even sure some of you have heard this saying, this narrative, Africa had no history before the coming of white men or colonization. Is it true? So if you have heard about this narrative or another version, let me know in the comments. Now, I'm here to talk to you about this, so let's get into it, guys. Many people from outside the continent, came to tell us that Africans, we don't have history, we don't have any achievements at all. Some even said Africa was a dark continent. But was it? Was it? The answer is a big no. Actually, white people came to Africa because they were attracted to Africa's resources, developments, Africa's advancements, and the rich art of Africa. Haven't you heard about the stolen artifacts, gold, and bronze items from different countries, from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Mali, many countries everywhere across the continent? But don't worry, we'll get to that in a moment. What baffles me is the fact, in fact, what's so interesting is how colonization and slavery made who we are, invisible. It brought this dark cloud, this dark shadow on our brilliant past. But guys, let me tell you, before the coming of white settlers or colonization or these outsiders, Africa was very much advanced, very much prosperous. And today, I brought you a story to share with you. Some of you may have heard about it, maybe a bit or maybe not. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's start it from the beginning, with mankind. Let's talk about the first human being to ever live on Earth, or the origins of humanity. Do you know where the first human being to ever live on Earth was from? You won't believe it. You won't believe it, guys. I'm telling you. It's in our very own Africa. Yes, guys, Africa is the origin. That's why Africa is called the cradle of mankind. Now, I know many of you are wondering where exactly in Africa. But if you know the country, let me know in the comments, or the country you think is the one where the first human lived. Just let me know in the comments. Let's see what you were taught in school, in your country or wherever you took your studies. So now, but we all know the country very well, where the first human being lived. And it's going to shock you, considering everything we were told by outsiders, even in school while growing up, that Africa was static, was dark, with no history. You will get shocked. Anyway, the first human being originated in Tanzania, a country in East Africa. Yes guys, our very well-known Tanzania, which is right here in Africa. And the exact place is called Olduvai Gorge. Yes, this is where the first humans walked and lived millions of years ago in Africa, the same Africa we were told had nothing. So for your own record, the first modern human beings were black. So were the first civilizations. But that's not even all. That's not even all, guys. At this point, you need to get yourself some snacks, maybe some popcorn, or as you enjoy this episode of Sweet African History that you were told doesn't exist. And now what I'm about to tell you, you will not believe it. So, but if you just got here, hit the subscribe button, like and share to educate many people around the world. They need to know what they didn't know all this time. So, now, since growing up, many of us, we were told not to cherish nothing. We were told to cherish nothing, absolutely nothing about Africa. Even in school textbooks, they were written under the supervision of colonial rule. So, I have a question for you guys. Who do you think the wealthiest human being ever is? Do you have an idea of who the wealthiest person ever to set foot on earth could be? The richest, the wealthiest. Because, we are told that Africa is poor. Africa has been poor. Even every day nowadays, we always hear about the millionaires, the billionaires of the world being from other parts of the world. Now we talk about Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and so on and so on. But guys, these are not wealthy people when we are talking about rich and wealthy people, right? So let me tell you about the wealthiest men to ever live on earth. But before I proceed, if you know the person's name, write in the comments and I'll tell you the person's name in a moment. So, where was this wealthiest, richest person to ever live on earth from? From Africa, our motherland. I know some of you were thinking the person was from Europe or another part of the world, but no, it's our beloved Africa, this African continent. I'm sure many of you are puzzled, are shocked. Yeah? So, the person was a king, and you know what? His kingdom was even larger than the size of Western Europe, and it stretched from today's Senegal up to Niger. This is just to give you an idea of how extensive and successful his empire was. Guess what his name was? Mansa Musa. Yes, Mansa Musa. And he was not even the first king of his kingdom. He was number 10. He was the 10th king of Mali Empire. And he ruled in the 14th century. So, how wealthy was he? How wealthy was he as the richest person ever in the history of humanity? According to research and different publications as of 1978, right? His wealth was equivalent to 400 billion US dollars. This was over 4 decades back, when it was calculated to be equivalent to 400 billion US dollars. We are talking about over 40 years ago. Meanwhile, the current richest person, who is considered to be the richest, by the way, is not worth more than 250 billion US dollars in 2024. Shocking, right? Yet we are told we had no history. We have no history. Okay, back to Mansa Musa. Another thing you need to know is, African kings back then, they used to go on expeditions, voyages, and Atlantic explorations, so they used to go on different trips. And in the year 1324 up to 1325, Mansa Musa, the richest person ever, visited Mecca, that is in Saudi Arabia, for the pilgrimage. But what's really interesting is that on his way, he passed through different countries, passed through Morocco, Egypt, Libya, for him to get to Saudi, and with him he carried an impressive 15 tons of gold. Guys, yes, 15 tons of gold. Even when one of the Egyptian officials saw Mansa Musa's envoy to Mecca with gold, he said Mansa Musa's gold-filled caravan competed with in glittering glory with the African sun itself. And let's not forget that this was over a century before slavery, even over 5 or 6 centuries before the 1884 Berlin Conference, that conference where Europeans met and agreed on the exploitation and colonization of Africa, But so, what am I really saying here? Basically, I'm saying that there were no white people in Africa at that time. That is why it's very surprising to think about how, African history has often been made invisible, especially given such remarkable milestones by different African kings and African empires from south, west, east, central, north, everywhere across the continent. Anyway, let's briefly talk about his gold, Mansa Musa's gold, that astounding 15 tons of gold. Do you know how much it is, guys? How much gold this was? It's equivalent to 15,000 kgs of gold. And as you all probably know, gold is very valuable. Even in the little history we were taught in school, gold has been one of the major reasons why Europeans came and exploited or colonized Africa, because of natural resources. Lastly, guys, as people on a mission, Mansa Musa on his trip to Mecca, they bought items, different gifts, and often he, as a generous person, he used to give gold to different people along the way, like random people in the streets, because of his generosity, and kindness. But what happened was that this gold was so plenty, and the influx of this gold in countries like Egypt caused even, economic disruptions and even a stock market crash. And this 15 tons of gold, it's not like that was his entire wealth. No, this was just a portion, just for the trip. So, but in general, guys, with all this, we still hear Africa is poor. Africa has no history. Africa had no history. Even we Africans ourselves, we are even calling ourselves poor. Yet we are the richest continent. Come on, guys. Honestly speaking, we should ask ourselves, why? Why don't we know this history? Who drafted our academic syllabus? Have we thought about who drafted our current educational systems? Trust me, this inherited colonial education system we have in Africa today has kept us from knowing who we are, how the world is shaped by even our African civilizations. It is quite obvious that those who wrote and drafted our educational syllabus did not want us to know about ourselves. Instead, they kept on telling us we had no history before colonization. And recall this one from the greatest, the legendary Bob Marley. He said that if we know our history, we will know where we are coming from, where we are, and where we are going. So guys, imagine how we celebrate other people and their history and cultures today. Yet for us, we know nothing about ourselves, except for colonialism, slavery, those episodes, But apart from that one, we know nothing, and we were made to live as if we didn't have anything. So if we don't know our history, we can't even understand ourselves and celebrate where we are coming from. So we need to know our history. Yeah. So guys, I'm really loving this. Yeah, there's power in learning from each other, But we were told Africa had no history. Even if we had to look at the other part of art, where we had those traditional African artifacts, the Benin bronze, which showcased the artistic achievements of African societies. Outsiders had to steal the amazing and unique artifacts from Africa. I'm sure you've heard of Nigeria's Benin bronze and the Ife bronze heads, that were taken to the British museums, the Dogon masks from Mali, Lalibela cross and the Ethiopian tablets, Ghana sculptures, and Zimbabwe's rarely found soapstone birds, all scattered across many European museums. So had we not had our concrete own history, was this not stealing of Africa's history? How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Bob Marley said that. How long shall they conceal our history while we celebrate other people's history, achievements, and cultures? So guys, here the idea is to tell our own stories as a people. We must decide how we want the world to see us and to know us. Let's own our narrative as Africans. Wherever we are, in the four corners of the earth, there is power in connecting and sharing our rich and unmatched history. Let's know our history and let the world know who we are based on our roots and our heritage, the rich heritage. So stay tuned for part 2 of the African history that you were told doesn't exist. Join me every week as we bring to light the hidden gems of Africa's past, the hidden gems of Africa's DNA, one episode at a time, one love, one people. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you not miss any of these great episodes. So be part of this great exploration.